Hello, everyone. We're here now with Howard Stern. He doesn't really need an introduction, and I can't thank him enough for taking the time to talk with us. Howard and I have spoken over the last couple of weeks about this terrible crisis that we're having, and we were really just discussing the stresses, not only the people, but the hospitals and the hospital workers have been facing. And the purpose of this event is to just get to have people see different celebrities and physicians from around the world, just to hear things. But at the end of the day, we're trying to raise money to help the hospitals and the workers get past this terrible crisis.
Well, I just want to say hello, and I don't know how you have time to raise money for anything. You are the busiest man I've ever met in my life. And I'm not wearing my bandana. I was going to, but I think it was okay.
It doesn't transmit on computers, Howard. We're good.
We're all right? Oh, I thought you said it transmits on computers.
No.
We're all in big trouble. But no, I wanted to thank you, first of all, for being such a wonderful surgeon and a wonderful guy. We met first when, of course, my mother was in the hospital for her heart surgery, and you were so kind and generous to her. And it's that kindness and generosity that you show in every situation. I don't know how many people who are watching this know you, but you are a phenom. I mean, every time I call you, you're awake. It's either like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I think I once called you at 2 o'clock in the morning to discuss something with you. And I said, well, I'll leave a message, and you pick up. I mean, I'm more worried about you than anybody in this whole crisis because A, we need you to stay healthy. You're so brave, and you're just phenomenal, as all the healthcare workers are.
But you're partially responsible why I'm a physician. I don't know if you're aware of that, but
now I've never heard this one before, and you and I have talked a lot.
So I think you came to New York in 1982, if I'm not mistaken, approximately.
The WNBC.
Right. Okay. So I was a fellow at Columbia Presbyterian in cardiology, and I lived in Long Island. I had a couple of kids and couldn't afford to live in the city, and I would commute on the Cross Bronx Expressway. And if anybody has ever commuted during rush hour on the Cross Bronx Expressway, and keep in mind, this is before cell phones. So you're on the Cross Bronx, I'm in a broken down car, and bumper to bumper traffic, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get home. And I turned the radio on, and you just, how many times can you listen to a news station every 20 minutes and just listening to music? And all of a sudden, I'm listening to you, and I'm not sure I'm really understanding what I'm hearing. But it basically changed my fellowship, where I was able to become a cardiologist because you kept my sanity. I remember telling everyone about you, and it was just amazing. As years went on, I didn't commute as much, so I didn't get to hear your station, but you were responsible for me being a cardiologist.
Well, that was my dream as a little boy. I used to say to my father, I'm going to go on the radio, and he thought I was insane because nobody in my family was in show business. There was no, it just didn't seem possible that I would go on the radio. But my father bought me a little Wallensack tape recorder back then, and I used to sit in my room and do shows. And the dream, if there was a dream, was that there would be some guy driving to work, and he'd be listening to me laughing in an otherwise miserable commute. So you are exactly what I had in mind. Like, I didn't have the vision of a lot of people listening. I just would focus on one person who was miserable, and then suddenly got to, after an hour and a half in traffic, would say, I don't want to leave the car because something fun is happening.
That's exactly what happened. Now, you said some nice things about me, but I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say some nice things about you. First of all, your family. So your mom has, if I can say, had an emergency procedure.
You can tell. My mother doesn't care. She lets you do whatever you want.
It's in the middle of the night. She just gets back from surgery. And she's in her room, and they had a food tray there. And I bring you up to see your mom, and the first thing she goes is, Howie, you look so tired. Eat something. Eat, and that's the type of family you have. She just has, and she's worried that you were tired and eating. But the other thing is, I've seen you in the hospital a couple of times visiting people, and I take care of many, many people over 35, 40 years. And the way you treat, this is not what people know about you. They know what they hear on the radio. But I saw this without you watching anyone. There was no audience. The way you treated the nurse, the guy who was cleaning the floor, the security guard. You were so humble and treated them so kindly as a person. It really tells you who you are. And the audience doesn't know that. I saw that every day without anyone watching, what a human being you are.
Well, I'm always surprised when people go, wow, you seem to be a fairly nice guy. And I'm always surprised that people think I'm so horrible. But No, listen, I always believe that no one is better than anyone else, and you treat everybody respectfully, and you hope they treat you the same way. And look, one of the things, my mother loves you, and you always check in on her. I don't know how you have the time, but I said to my mother, Mom, Dr. Shlofmitz needs me to go on the computer. What? I go, he needs me to go on the computer. What are you doing on the computer with Dr. Shlofmitz? I said, he wants me to do something for charity. It's a way of raising money during the. What is that? He's going to talk to you? That's wonderful. We have to do something for Dr. Shlofmitz. After all, he saved my life. Every time I call him, I don't know what I would do without him. I love him. I'm like, I get a lecture on you almost every day.
Well, so Howard, let me just get to some things going on in the show. Like in the radio, I would
imagine. By the way, that was an impression of my mother, just in case you know.
It's very good, actually.
I don't actually talk that way.
So on the radio right now, people are not affected by social distancing on the radio, so your show can go on. But I imagine many of the people that you interview and the guests, it's going to affect their future in the near future, at least. How are they dealing with that? What have they told you?
First of all, you hit it right on the head. I am so grateful that I'm able to work. I'm able to put a microphone in my house, and with a fairly decent Wi-Fi connection, I can do most of the things I normally do on the radio. So I'm able to at least have my job. I mean, I am so worried about the economy in terms of how this is really impacting people, especially on Long Island. There are a lot of people who aren't as lucky. They cannot go to work. There is just no way. And I'm really worried about those people. And so, now I've done about 9 shows since we've been in quarantine. And you're right, I do call various celebrities. It's great to talk to people about show business, but the other thing is I'm getting to talk to them about how they're handling this crisis. And you want to know something, Dr. Shlofmitz? Nobody seems to know what to do, because a lot of the people are in the concert business, and not just the lead guy. Like when I was talking to Adam Levine, he had a big tour planned. You know how many people are unemployed because he's not going out on tour? And these guys really do feel it. They feel a sense of responsibility. We've got some really great people in our country who care, much like you. I mean, no one's greater than you. I mean, you're like God himself. But I see, like, it was weighing heavily on a lot of people that they couldn't go out and tour, not so much for their own living, but because they were worried about the people who work for them. So this thing is a mess, and I don't know what's going to be, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of agita, and no one knows quite what to say or do. And one of the things I found in talking to you, I called you at the beginning of this thing, and man, you calmed me down. You were talking to me about what this virus is, about how a majority of the people can stay at home. They can get health care by of course, if there's an emergency, but for the most part, stay home, take aspirin to control the fever. And so you're a very calming voice. But a lot of the people I speak to, particularly in show business, just don't know what to think. And right now, the rock stars and the movie stars are you and people in the health profession. And I'm just moved by what everyone's doing, and I'm moved by what you're doing.
Well, I think we are going to get back. It's going to be, as the new word is a new normal. And I think we will have a new normal. We're not going to be shaking hands and kissing when you see somebody.
Good. I never liked that anyway. I always hated it. I used to scream. I'm a germphobe to begin with. The whole process of shaking hands. I mean, how many times have you shaken someone's hand and it's a wet mess?
But think how happy those people are. The people who have the wet hands, they're so happy right now.
So look, if anything good comes of this, people will no longer be touching one another in public. What do you think we'll go to? A bow, maybe, like the Japanese do or something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, how lucky are we? We have a full head of hair, huh? Look at you, look at me.
That's right.
Isn't that something? And by the way, I don't color my hair.
No, neither do I. I have some gray hair, if you can see, but
I bet you have a few more since this thing started.
Absolutely. But I
So are
do.
you doing a lot of heart surgery, or have you
uh,
switched?
So what's interesting is St. Francis Hospital is around 300 beds, and as a cardiologist, we have the greatest job in the world. Someone has a heart problem, we fix them, and you go home, and everybody thinks you're great. This totally brings us back to reality, what many other physicians deal with every day. Right now, 80% of our hospital is COVID patients. Every unit, we have 6 intensive care units, 5.5 of them are devoted to COVID patients. And what's amazing, the nurses, they're the ones dressed in full gear in there every day with people that potentially could put them in a life-threatening situation. And these are young people just really just working shift after shift. It's amazing what they're doing, but it's changed what we do. I spend every day talking to families, trying to walk them off the ledge. They just because they can't come visit anyone. Imagine if you're dropping off a family member and you're told you can't visit them. I mean, it's just
I
hard.
know. The producer of my show has his father-in-law just passed away from this. They couldn't go visit him, and now even with funeral arrangements, I mean, he received last rites. There was some priest that was somehow able to come in or something. I don't know what happened, but he died alone. No one could visit him, and they're distraught at the thought of that. But they did say that the healthcare professionals that were involved with him were so loving afterwards, and like talked and said, yes, somebody was with him, But I mean, it's horrible.
Well, on a positive note, though, it does, we're decreasing the admissions. That is happening.
Right.
And when I spoke to my colleagues overseas, there will be an end in sight. I'm hoping our economy gets back there. We're going to have to be creative in restaurants. I know I love to eat out, and it's.
Oh, do you ever? I know. I'm not going to say your favorite restaurant, but you must be really jonesing for that place. You love it.
It's hard not to eat out. It's going to be difficult to get back there initially, but somehow I'm going to try to figure it to eat without a mask. But Howard, you are so gracious to do this for us. And I love listening to you, and I really appreciate the time you spent.
Well, listen, you know how I feel about you. When you called me and said, come on and do this thing, I would do anything for you. You're just, anybody who knows Dr. Shlofmitz knows what I'm talking about. He helps everyone, not just the mother of a celebrity. You treat everyone I know has said the same thing about you. You are so kind and good to your patients, and I thank you for everything you do. And I don't know if this helps or not, me being here, but I hope it did. And I hope this thing is over soon. How you doing with your cooking? You've been cooking?
Every night almost, yeah.
What is the dish that you make in order to get that comfort food? What's the thing?
So a couple of things. So my wife, what she does is she drives me to work in the morning, and she picks me up at night. We stop at the butcher coming back, and I get a 2-inch bone-in sirloin steak that I first have a grill with marks, and I put it on the stove, and then I bake it. But I make slices in it and put butter inside each slice, so it's grilling with butter.
Now, when are you going to become a vegetarian? I mean, here you are, a heart surgeon.
2 of my kids are vegetarians, but the way I look at it, you can fix heart disease. I can't fix this. But steak is, I just love that. But
oh, man. Well, listen, I know you love cooking. I don't know how you have time for all of this. I don't know how you're cooking every night. Aren't you exhausted when you get home?
No, not really. It actually relaxes us and gives us something, a distraction.
You hitting the bottle or what?
Of course. Wait, let me just show you here.
What do you got? Nice. What is that?
Macallan.
Oh, Macallan. Oh, you're really hitting it. You're hitting the good stuff.
I used to say I never drank at home because I was never home. Now I'm going through the.
You just take a couple of pops right before surgery, right? Just to calm yourself down.
Well, thank you again, Howard. I couldn't appreciate it more, and I wish you guys the best of health.
I wish you the best, and we'll speak soon.
Take care.
Lots of love.